Where do you think you're going with that bag, Ajua? Away. Away from a husband who cannot even look me in the eye and tell me where he disappears to every night. If you walk through that gate now, you will never know the real reason. And by morning, it may be too late for it to matter.
Then tell me why Kwabena has been sneaking into Efuadako's house. While I lie awake in a marriage he swore to me was becoming real.
Some secrets are more dangerous than the lie protecting them, Ajoa. Are you sure you're ready for the truth waiting on the other side of that gate?
Before we do, drop a comment and tell me which town or city you're watching from tonight. And if stories like this keep you glued past your bedtime, hit that subscribe button, because there's a lot more where this came from. Now, let's rewind.
In the quiet town of Asoya, where the harmattan dust settled on rooftops every December and the river Densu ran slow and brown behind the market square, there lived a young woman named Ajua Boating. She was 23, sharp-eyed, quick-tongued when she needed to be, and the only one left to care for her younger brother Kojo after their parents died within a year of each other. Ajua sewed dresses for her living. Her hands were fast, her stitches were clean, but her purse was always empty by the third week of the month. Kojo was 12. He had a weak chest, the kind that rattled when the rains came, and the town doctor said if they did not get him proper treatment in the city before the next dry season, his lungs would never grow right. Ajua did not sleep some nights, not because she was afraid of ghosts or spirits, but because she was afraid of arithmetic. The treatment cost more than she could sew in 3 years. That was when Nana Yebua came to her door. Nana Yebua wasn't blood, but she had been close to Ajua's late mother, close enough that people called her auntie out of respect rather than relation. She sat in Ajua's small parlor, sipping water she did not ask for, and made a proposal that Ajua first laughed at, then grew quiet over, then finally could not stop thinking about. There is a young man, Nana Yebua said, Kwabena Owusu, son of Opayi Owusu, the timber merchant. You have heard the name. Everyone in Asoya had heard the name. The Owusu family owned half the sawmills between Asoya and Nsawam. He needs a wife, Nana Yebua continued. Not forever, for 1 year. Her grandmother, before she died, left a condition in her will. Kwabena inherits her cocoa lands only if he is a married man by his 28th birthday. That birthday is 4 months away. He does not love anyone. He does not want to love anyone. He wants a woman who will wear the ring, answer to the name, and disappear quietly when the year ends with enough money in her hand to never worry about rent again. Ajua should have said no. She almost did, but she thought of Kojo's rattling chest and the number in her head that never got smaller, and she said yes before she let herself think a second longer. She did not tell Kojo the truth. She told him it was love. She told the whole town it was love because Kwabena Owusu insisted on it. If people know it is a contract, Kwabena told her the first time they met properly in his father's study, the deal is void. My grandmother's lawyer wrote it carefully. It has to look real, Ajua. It has to look completely real. He was not what she expected. She expected a spoiled man, soft-handed, full of himself. Instead, she found someone quiet, watchful, a man who counted his words like coins before spending them. He did not smile easily, but when he did, just once over a shared joke about his father's terrible taste in furniture, she felt something shift in her chest that she quickly told herself was nothing. The wedding was small but convincing. Ajua wore white, Kwabena wore a dark cloth, and the whole town of Asoya came out to watch the timber merchant's son marry the seamstress's daughter. Some called it a fairy tale, some quietly called it strange. A man like Kwabena marrying a woman with no name, no land, nothing to offer but her hands and her face. Nobody knew it was a lie. Nobody except 3 people, Ajua, Kwabena, and Nana Yebwa, who had brokered the whole arrangement for a fee neither of them liked to mention out loud. For the first 2 months, it was simple. Ajua moved into the Owusu family house. She and Kwabena kept separate rooms, separated by a hallway and an unspoken agreement. They ate breakfast together for the servants to see, held hands in the market for the neighbors to see, and at night, each retreated to their own silence. But something began to crack in that careful arrangement. Ajua found herself waiting for Kwabena's footsteps on the veranda in the evenings. Kwabena found himself walking slower past Ajua's sewing table, watching her hands move, asking questions about Kojo he did not need to ask. Small things, dangerous things. By the 4th month, they were no longer performing for anyone. They laughed at dinner because they wanted to, not because someone was watching. Kwabena paid for Kojo's treatment in the city without being asked, and when Ajua tried to thank him, he waved it off like it was nothing, though both of them knew it was everything. She told herself she was not falling in love. She told herself this every single day, right up until the day she stopped believing it. There was a night in the 5th month when the rains came hard and the power went out across Asoya. Ajoa lit a lamp in the parlor and found Kwabena already there, sitting alone in the dark, staring at nothing. She almost turned back to her room. Instead, she sat down across from him, and for the first time since the wedding, they talked without an audience to perform for. He told her about his grandmother, the woman who raised him after his mother died young, the woman who used to say that land meant nothing if the man who inherited it had no one to share it with. He told her he had always believed she was wrong. That night, watching the lamplight flicker across Ajoa's face, he was no longer so sure. Ajoa told him about Kojo, about the nights she stayed up counting coins that never added to enough, about the fear of losing the only family she had left. Kwabena listened the way no one had listened to her in years, not waiting for his turn to speak, just listening. When the rain finally stopped and the lamp burned low, neither of them moved to leave the room. It was the closest thing to honesty either of them had allowed themselves since the contract, and it frightened Ajoa more than anything else had.
Now here's where it gets complicated, because nothing in this story is ever what it looks like on the surface. So if you're new here, subscribe now, because you do not want to miss where this goes. And tell me in the comments, do you think a marriage that starts as a lie can ever become something true? Hold that thought. You're going to need it, because in the 6th month, everything changed.
Ajoa began noticing something. Kwabena started leaving the house late at night, always with the same excuse: business at the sawmill, a shipment delayed, a client from Kumasi who could only meet after dark. She let it go the first time. The second time, she asked. He gave a short answer and left before she could ask more. By the 5th time, she stopped asking and started watching. One evening, she followed him. She kept her distance, moving through the narrow streets behind the market, past the closed stalls, until she saw him stop outside a small house near the river, a house that did not belong to any sawmill client. A woman opened the door, young, beautiful, familiar somehow, though Ajoa could not place her at first. Kwabena stepped inside and the door closed, and Ajoa stood in the dark for almost an hour, feeling something cold spread through her chest that had nothing to do with the night air. She did not confront him that night. She went home, lay in her own bed, in her own room, in a marriage that was not supposed to mean anything, and cried like it meant everything. Because somewhere between the fake vows and the real breakfasts, she had let herself believe in something that might have just been another lie. The next morning, she learned the woman's name, Efwa Dako. And what she learned next made her stomach turn. Efwa Dako was not a stranger. She was Kwabena's cousin's widow, a woman his family had once tried to force him to marry years before the fake wedding, before Ajoa, before any of this. A woman his father still spoke of with hope in his voice, as if the door between them had never truly closed. Ajoa did the only thing she could think to do. She confronted him. Not softly, not carefully. She stood in the doorway of his study and asked him flat out if he had been meeting another woman wearing her ring in front of the whole town. Kwabena did not deny it, and that silence told her everything, or so she thought. She packed a small bag that night. This was it. This was the gate I told you about at the very beginning. She was ready to walk out of the Owusu house, contract or no contract, money or no money, because there was one thing Ajoa Boateng had never done in her life, and that was stay somewhere she was not respected. But before she reached the gate, Nana Yeboah stopped her. "You do not know the whole story," Nana Yeboah said. "None of you do." And here is the part of the story that changes everything.
So if you have not subscribed yet, now is the moment. Because what happens next flips this whole tale on its head.
Nana Yeboah sat Ajoa down and told her the truth she had been keeping since the beginning. Opanyi Owusu, Kwabena's father, had never accepted the will. He believed the cocoa lands belonged to him, not his son, and he had spent months secretly building a legal case to overturn his mother's will entirely, a case requiring proving Kwabena's marriage was a fraud. To do that, he needed a witness, someone inside the marriage, someone who could testify that the union was arranged, not real. He had tried to recruit Efwa Dako for exactly that purpose, dangling the promise of the family's blessing and a comfortable future if she helped him prove Kwabena's marriage was fake. But Efwa had agreed at first, desperate and cornered by her own circumstances after her husband left her with nothing. But every visit Kwabena made to her house was not romance. It was an attempt to convince her to change her mind, to warn her that her father was a dangerous man to trust, to beg her not to destroy the one good thing that had happened to him since his grandmother died. Ajoa sat frozen as the truth rearranged itself in front of her. The man she had accused, the man she had been ready to leave, had spent his night not betraying her, but protecting her. And he did it silently, because if he told her the truth and she reacted the wrong way in front of the wrong person, his father would have all the proof he needed anyway. She found him in the study an hour later. She did not apologize with words. She sat across from him and simply asked, "Why didn't you tell me?"
"Because you would have looked at me differently," Kwabena said. "Every day, wondering when Efwa would change her mind. I did not want you to live like that. I wanted you to have at least one normal day in this whole arrangement." It should have ended there, quietly, warmly, the way these stories are supposed to end. But Asoja was not finished with them yet. 2 weeks before Kwabena's 28th birthday, Opanyo also made his move. He filed his case at the district court, claiming his son's marriage was a sham arranged for financial gain, and he had Efwa Daku's signed statement to prove it, a statement she had given him months earlier, before Kwabena convinced her to walk away from the plan, a statement she had never managed to formally withdraw. The court date was set. The whole town would hear it. Ajoa realized, with a sinking heart, that the truth of their marriage, the very thing she had spent 6 months trying to forget, was about to become public record, whether she wanted it to or not.
If you're still here, comment below and tell me what you would do in Ajoa's shoes, because what happens in that courtroom is the twist nobody sees coming.
On the day of the hearing, Efwa Daku walked into the courtroom and did something no one expected. She withdrew her statement entirely, in front of the judge, in front of Opanyo Woso, in front of the whole gathered town. She said the words herself. The statement had been given under pressure during the worst months of her grief, and it did not reflect the truth as she now understood it. She looked at Kwabena when she said it, and then she looked at Ajoa, and something passed between the two women that was not friendship, but was not hostility either. Understanding maybe, respect perhaps, for a man who had refused to sacrifice either of them for his own comfort. For a moment, nobody in the courtroom moved.
Opanyowoso rose halfway from his seat, his voice cracking with fury, accusing Efua of lying now instead of then, of being paid off, of switching loyalties for reasons the court would surely see through. The judge silenced him with a single look. Efua did not flinch. She repeated her statement a second time, slower, steadier, and this time she added something she had not planned to say, that the only person in this whole affair who had never once asked her anything, who had only ever asked her to be honest with herself, was the same man his father was trying to destroy. The case collapsed. Opanyowoso lost, publicly, bitterly, and left the courtroom without a word to his son. The cocoa lands stayed with Kwabena, exactly as his grandmother intended. But here is where the story stops being simple, because Ajoa Boating did not stay for the money. She had earned enough by then to pay for Kojo's treatment twice over. The contract had already done its job. She could have taken her share and walked away with her head high, and no one in Asoja would have blamed her. She stayed anyway, not because of a contract, because somewhere in 6 months of pretending, the pretending had stopped, and neither of them had noticed the exact day it happened. They held a second wedding, smaller than the first, with none of the performance and all of the truth. Ajoa wore a plain cloth this time, not white, and Kwabena did not need his father's approval or his grandmother's will to stand beside her. Kojo, healthier now, stood as the only witness who mattered to either of them. But here is the part that will make you argue in the comments, because not everyone walks away from this story clean. Efua Daku, the woman who saved their marriage in that courtroom, was quietly cast out by the very family she tried to protect. Opanyowoso never forgave her for switching sides, and without his support, without a husband, without the Owoso name behind her anymore, she left Asoja within the year and was never seen in that town again. Nobody knows exactly where she went. Nobody, not even Ajoa, ever tried hard enough to find out. So ask yourself this. Ajoa got her happy ending. Kwabena got his lands and his love. But the woman who made all of it possible, who told the truth when it cost her everything, walked away with nothing, and no one in that town ever thought to thank her properly. Was that justice? Or was it just another quiet betrayal dressed up as a happy ending? That is the question I'm leaving you with tonight. Some of you will say Ajoa and Kwabena owed Efua nothing beyond what she already chose to give. Others will say a debt like that should never be allowed to go unpaid, no matter how the story ends.
Tell me where you stand in the comments below, and tell me the name of your town while you're at it, because I read every single one of them. Hit subscribe, because the next one might just be the story that changes your mind about everything you thought you believed about love and lies and the thin, thin line between them. Until next time, Asuoja keeps its secrets. But you don't have to keep yours. Tell me what you really think.